Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. I am Megan Hardy, the founder of Fitness Uncharted, and this is where we talk about mindset and strategies that are going to help you to build muscle, lose body fat, improve your metabolism, and leave you feeling confident and empowered. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and welcome to this episode, guys. Let's jump into it. And today, if you are watching on YouTube, I've got some braids in. I'm feeling very sassy today because my bestie did my some French braids for me yesterday. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to go record a podcast episode. Just because I'm like, I look cute today. But anyway, today we are talking about a listener question coming from Hannah Jacobs. Shout out Hannah. She wanted to know how to determine how much cardio you should be doing. So didn't give much more elaboration than that, but I think I know which direction she was going in. But my first question that I want to pose to anyone listening to this is, first, what is your goal? When you are asking yourself, how much cardio should I be doing? First, you have to go like, what's the goal? Is your goal endurance? Are you trying to build your stamina? Are you practicing for a sport, something specific like soccer or running, rowing? Are you practicing for competition or a marathon, something like that? Are you trying to build that endurance and stamina? Or is your goal fat loss? Is your goal more so losing body weight and body fat, seeing more lean muscle tone, muscle definition, improving your overall physique, and reducing body fat? So separate goals. And first you have to ask yourself, with cardio, what is the intent? So cardio stands for cardiovascular exercise. And really what that's looking at is the heart. So we should be thinking like heart health when we think of cardio. A lot of us are looking at cardio for our fat loss goals, but that's really not the best use of our time if our goal is fat loss. And we'll jump into that a little bit more. But when we think of cardio, it has a lot of benefits. So yes, you will manually burn calories when you're doing cardio. And it also has the cardiovascular benefits, the heart benefits. So you're going to keep your heart healthy by doing cardio. So I know a lot of people in the strength training space or in more of the traditional bodybuilding world kind of poo-poo on cardio sometimes, or it's like all or nothing. They're like, no, I never do cardio, or like cardio sucks for fat loss. And truth be told, it is not the best way to lose body fat. You can lose body weight, but you'll probably end up looking more so of that skinny fat look that you probably don't want by just doing excessive cardio. But cardio does have its time and place, and especially when we're just looking at our health too. But first and foremost, if your goal is fat loss, so let's take this question and look at it from like a fat loss approach, because if it's endurance based, if you're looking at cardio for endurance, you really want to just program your cardio to your sport. So if you're a soccer player, you'll want to program in your cardio to lean towards you having more stamina and being faster for soccer and for your sport. If your sport is running and you're doing marathons, you want to train to prep and prepare for the marathon. So you want to train in the mode of your sport if that's your goal. But if your goal is fat loss, that's what we're going to talk about today as far as cardio. So first and foremost, with fat loss, it really boils down to nutrition, because you cannot outwork a bad diet. Throwing extra cardio at it is not the answer. And if anything, if you've heard from my previous episodes and my own backstory with, some of the binging and restricting cycles that I have gone through in my past, I always tried to just throw extra cardio at it, thinking that would solve the problem for me and that I could just work off all of the binges that I had. And it actually exacerbated that bad cycle for me. So cardio is not the answer, and excessive cardio is not the answer if your goal is fat loss. And we really have to look at proper nutrition first and foremost. And that's a whole other topic that we won't dive into today. We've covered some in previous episodes, but we're not talking about nutrition today. We're just talking about cardio. One thing to note with a fat loss phase, or if you are trying to lose body fat or you're in a calorie deficit and nutrition, what we need is to create a calorie deficit. So we need to be increasing activity and decreasing calories to create that calorie deficit. So we need to be expending more energy than we're consuming. basically. So there's two ways you can do that. You can move more or you can eat less to make that happen. And in a perfect world, you're doing a combination of both. But one thing to know is that when you are in a calorie deficit, our NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, AKA the movement that we're doing day to day that we don't even realize. So like the fidgeting that we do, like tapping our foot or like drumming our fingers or, the little ticks and twitches that we have, or even little things around the house, like going to put laundry in or taking the stairs, to go put, I don't know, toilet paper in the downstairs bathroom and things like that. Which is, I just bring that example up because I literally had toilet paper sitting on my kitchen table for like 3 days because I didn't feel like going to put it in the downstairs bathroom. So, little things like that, but that NEAT, that non-exercise activity, just think any activity that's outside of intentional exercise, that tends to be lower when we're in a calorie deficit. So less activity, less fidgeting, less movement. And so what we need to do is we need to try to do things during a calorie deficit that increases our NEAT, that non-exercise activity, so that we can keep our activity high and keep burning more calories, because we don't even realize it, but if we're starting to move less in a calorie deficit, we're no longer creating that much of a calorie deficit. If we're moving less, even though we've decreased calories, now we're really just kind of slowing down our metabolic rate and our calorie burning. So we want to try to keep our activity up. And two ways that we want to do that is through strength training and LISS, or low intensity steady state cardio. So strength training, the reason why we want to definitely be strength training when we're in a calorie deficit all the time, but especially in a calorie deficit, is because we want to signal to our body to hold on to muscle. And two ways that we can do that is by eating enough protein and eating enough calories as well, but we're in a calorie deficit. So eating enough protein, and then also by strength training. And what this is doing is it's telling the muscle like, hey, Megan's using you on a day-to-day basis. Like Megan needs you. I know we're in a calorie deficit. I know she's not feeding us enough food right now. And we're kind of worried that we might starve, but like we can't expend this muscle tissue. Like we can't burn off this muscle because she's using that and she needs it. So we have to provide that stimulus to the muscle and help it to not break itself down in a calorie deficit. So strength training and adequate protein are two ways that we can do that. And the reason why we want to do that is if we're losing weight and body fat, we don't want to be losing muscle mass, or we want to avoid losing as much muscle mass as possible in order to have that toned look at the end of the day, right? So strength train, and then LISS, low intensity, steady state cardio, AKA walking, you guys. Walk more. It is so underrated, but it's the best way to get more movement into your day that isn't really high stress. So especially if you're someone who is already under a lot of stress or having some issues with regulating your cortisol, which again, as we talked about before, cortisol is not the bad guy, but chronic levels of stress and cortisol can be, as far as especially your fat loss goals. But walking is a really low stress way of getting more activity and movement in. It can actually relieve stress, especially if you're walking outside. Even better, but just aim for 10,000 steps a day. That's a really great goal. Or if you're already getting 5,000 steps a day, let's say that's kind of your average right now, try to get 8,000 steps. So if you're someone who is trying to lose some body fat, or you're in a calorie deficit, you're trying to, if your question is how much cardio should I be doing? I want to see more results. What can I do? Try to get 8,000 steps. So if you're on average getting 5,000, bumping up to 8,000 without changing anything else can help do the trick. Or if let's say you're getting 10,000 steps already, that's your average. You've always normally get 10,000 steps. You're pulling yourself down into a small calorie deficit, and then you bump your steps up to, let's say, 12 to 13 or 14,000 steps a day instead of your normal 10,000. You're creating more of a calorie deficit in a really healthy way, just getting more movement in with that low intensity, steady state exercise. And the reason that we don't want to do excessive high intensity exercise like running is because it actually makes your body more efficient. Your body becomes more efficient at basically not burning calories, which is not good. It's not good for burning calories and body fat. We don't want our bodies to be efficient at cardio. Think the more efficient it is, it's like the less gas that it uses, right? So like think of this is an example I literally just came up with right now, but think of a car that's like, an eco-friendly car. If it's more efficient, it burns less fuel, right? So you save money on gas, but you're burning less. But in the principle of your body and calories, we don't want our bodies to be more efficient because it means it's going to burn less calories, AKA it's going to burn less of the fuel and the food that we're giving it. So we don't want it to be super efficient. And another really great example of this, Sal DiStefano from Mind Pump, he gives this example, which I love, and it helped really like make things click in my own brain too, was that there was a study done on modern hunter-gatherers in northern Tanzania. They're called the Hadza tribe, and they're a modern day hunter-gatherer tribe. And there was a study done to look at their metabolic rate because they were assuming, with this study that they would see that their metabolic rate was like through the roof, right? Because like they're hunting and gathering all day, they're moving so much, they're doing so much cardio that you would think that they would have a super high metabolism, right? But what they came to find out with this study was that their metabolic rate was really no different than the average sedentary American, like very, very little difference or variation. And it was like, what? That's so crazy. How is that? And that's because their bodies had metabolically adapted to the amount of cardio that they're doing, and their bodies became more efficient with exercise. That's like our body's survival mechanism to ensure we don't starve to death, right? If think about it, for modern hunter-gatherers, if they just burned more and more and more and more, they would never be able to keep up with that amount of caloric burn. And they would not even be able to hunt or gather enough food to feed themselves. Their bodies would literally starve to death. So our bodies are super smart in the sense that they actually become more efficient with the more cardio that we do, which is not what we want if we're the person that's trying to lose body fat. So here, the takeaways are: don't overdo high intensity exercise. More is not always better. So, think like even my Orange Theory people, my F45, my kickboxing classes, cycling classes, like those kind of training styles are not going to get you the desired results if the goal is body fat reduction. More is not always better when it comes to cardio, and especially high intensity cardio, because your body becomes more efficient at it. And we don't want that. We don't want to be efficient. We want our bodies to burn more calories and burn more body fat. So your body will adapt. It'll become more efficient. You'll burn less body fat. So throwing a bunch of extra running or extra cardio at it is not the answer or solution. I think that's most people's go-to when they're trying to lose weight or lose body fat, is they're like, I just need to go running more. I know I need to run. I'm going to go for another run. I'm going to start running again. And it's like, you're actually just, you're increasing your stamina and your endurance, and you're getting some cardiovascular benefits from that. But that's not the best route if your goal is body fat reduction. You really want to eat properly, eat the right food, diet, nutrition, and you want to strength train, and then go for more walks, get more of that daily movement in, and increase your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So incorporate that movement throughout your day, list movement like walking. And if you're trying to create more of a calorie deficit, try upping your steps, like 2,000 to 3,000 steps before you try to cut more calories. So what I always tell my clients is the goal is to diet while eating as much food as possible, because what that's going to do is going to help your body to not metabolically adapt to where, let's say I normally eat 2,300 calories. I put myself into a calorie deficit at, let's say, 18 to 1,900 calories. My body eventually is going to start only burning 18 to 1,900 calories if I allow it. I'm going to have to give myself diet breaks and bring myself back up to maintenance to avoid that metabolic adaptation. But if I can increase my activity a little bit while eating higher calorie, then I can still see the benefits of a calorie deficit. I can still lose weight and body fat, but I don't have to worry about my metabolism down regulating as low, right? So the goal is always to eat as much food as possible while creating that calorie deficit for yourself. And a really great way to do that is to just up your activity just a little bit. 2,000 to 3,000 extra steps a day is really going to move the needle, you guys. You probably just need more movement. So Hannah, I hope that answers your question. It is very nuanced for the person, but instead of thinking, oh, how many more extra cardio sessions on the treadmill do I need to add in? Like, just try to set an extra step goal for yourself per day. An extra 1, 2, 3,000 steps per day can go a long way, especially if you are consistent with that. So if you guys found this helpful, let me know. Please leave a review, share it with a friend. And if you have any questions for future episode topics, just let me know that as well. I'm happy to hit on those. My social media handles are in the show notes and you can contact me that way. And otherwise, that was short and sweet for you guys, but I'll catch you on the next episode.